We've been watching the sentencing hearing for Michael Keetley all morning long, and right now it is time for Michael Keetley to find out his fate. As you heard, Judge Sabella's hands are tied on a lot of it. With the first two counts, it's life, and that's just it. It's going to be life sentence. We know that. Let's go in, though, and listen to one of our favorite judges here at Court TV, Judge Sabella.
Go ahead, Mr. Keetley. Let me have you stand to receive the sentence. I know that it's not a surprise that you're going to be sentenced to life today, but I do want to make a couple of comments. This has been a very long road and a very difficult case for a number of reasons, including the fact that it has been such a long road. I think that it is the oldest case that is on the docket in this circuit. But it has finally come to an end, and what it shows to the victims in this case is that justice is not always swift, but justice is eventually served. Nothing I can do or say today will alleviate the pain that you have suffered and the losses that you have suffered, but I do hope that you can find some peace in the conclusion, or at least the conclusion at this stage of this case after such a long road. I am going to adjudicate, if I haven't previously done so. I probably did adjudicate at the end of the trial. Madam Clerk, was he previously adjudicated?
No, he wasn't.
All right, well, I will adjudicate Mr. Keetley at this time guilty on all 6 counts. I will sentence him to life in prison on each and every one of the 6 counts, with a minimum mandatory of 25 years in each and every one of the counts. In Florida, life means life because there is no possibility of parole. So, Mr. Keetley, you will, barring any reversal on appeal, spend the rest of your natural life in the Florida Department of Corrections. I am going to impose all standard fees, costs associated with the standard computation of those fees and costs. You will have 30 days to appeal the judgment and sentence entered against you. I will give you credit for every day that you have already served during this long road in the Hillsborough County Jail, which was 4,559 days, but I'm going to add 30 days to give you credit for 4,589 days. Is there anything else from the state?
Judge, you do need to announce formally on the record if those life sentences are to run concurrent or consecutive.
Absolutely right, and I am going to run them concurrently.
Thank you, Judge.
Is there anything from the defense?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Escobar.
Mr. Escobar.
Yes, Your Honor. We have been hired by the family to handle the appeal, and so we will file the appropriate papers by Tuesday.
Excellent. I appreciate you letting me know, because there's sometimes we're not sure what's going to happen and whether we need to appoint the public defender or anything, so I do appreciate that. And I have announced on the record that there he does have 30 days to appeal.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're very welcome. Thank you, and nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
All right.
Judge, I'm sorry. I'm speaking with Mr. Keetley.
Yes.
A question.
Yes.
He had a question when you pronounced court costs. I told him those were the statutory court costs.
Right.
Those are not costs associated with the prosecution.
Well, I don't have the list up here of the state, but I will tell you this, that if you have a discrepancy with any of the standard court costs that are imposed, feel free to file a motion and we will have a hearing. I am not imposing. I know that he was at some point represented by the public defender's office. I'm not imposing, because he was majority of the time represented by private counsel. So I'm not imposing those costs associated with public defender fees. So I will strike that from the standard costs. But if you have any issues regarding costs, I welcome you to file a motion.
We will review the judgment and sentence, of course, and if there's a question, we'll follow up on that.
And it'll take a couple of days. I don't expect to sign that until probably Monday. I don't expect that it'll be in my queue to sign today. And he won't be transported till after that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
your time, nothing else.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, there's Michael Keetley looking back at his mother, who was in the courtroom there. He has been sentenced to 6 life terms, 2 without parole. Cannon Kearney has been watching along with us, trial attorney in the state of New York. Cannon, this is not a surprise. You look at the families of the victims, specifically Mom. She seemed to she had a little smile on her face when she was told what the sentence was, and for everybody, it has been a long, as Judge Sabella noted, long road.
Ted, this has been a very long road for any family member, any victim that has to endure their loved ones being murdered. I mean, from a perspective of an individual who regularly walks the streets and hear ice cream trucks, imagine now how the victims of the families will be when they hear those normally jubilant sounds. There's many different things that this case has brought out. Should the police and the law enforcement actually be rejoicing when maybe they didn't bring to justice the individuals who initially wronged the defendant? So everyone here has a finger pointed towards the other. This is how society works, unfortunately, and fortunately, because justice is being served. But everyone has to look in the mirror here and look at the fact that this could be them. And so moving forward, what can be done for these type of decisions or ultimate murders to be stopped? I would assume it's the question that everybody should be asking themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you trace this all the way back to another crime, and that was the crime against the ice cream truck driver Michael Keetley. He was assaulted. He was shot in the arm. They stole. He had, I think it was $2, some incredibly small amount of money. 2 individuals came into his truck and basically robbed him at gunpoint and shot him. And then he was leading the investigation. We heard from the original investigator during his trial. I mean, it was I think that, they thought, we don't know who did it, and it was not followed up. The retired detective, a series of things happened, and then according to the state and according to this jury in the second trial, Michael Keetley lost it and took the law into his own hands and searched down who he thought the creeper was responsible, and then he showed up at the wrong house on Ocean Mist Drive and ended up taking the lives of this woman's young children. You see the embrace there between family members. And there's these, if you look into the gallery here, we recognize those faces because these were the victims. There's Mr. Cantu. You see his arm still not, he can't use his right arm. He took the stand in this case. He had a brain injury. He's living with it for the rest of his life as well. Yes, he survived, but to your point, Cannon, the destruction is, for most of the crimes we cover here at Court TV, it's just so layered. Even Keetley's parents, where his mother's sitting there, her life's been absolutely thrown. It's just heartbreaking.
And speaking to that, I'm sure as a mother, she wanted to do everything in her power to defend her son in that moment, to speak words of peace or calmness to the victims' families. But it seems as if his attorneys and him had a discussion prior to that said that, we don't agree with the decision. We're pretty certain that you're going to get life in prison. We're going to be appealing. So it probably would be best for you not to speak. As an attorney, as a defense attorney, I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe him saying a few compassionate words would have assisted in the cases that weren't, or in the charges that weren't mandatory. However, all one can say is that justice has been served finally for the victims, and moving forward, we would hope that individuals would not take vigilantism into their own hands, and would cooperate with the local law enforcement to handle these types of issues.
Clearly, the defense believes that there's an opening in the appellate process, and that is why they instructed Michael Keetley not to speak to the court, and they articulated that to the judge and to the family members. But also, when his mom wanted to say something, boy, they jumped out of their chair and scurried back and told mom to, hey, no, don't talk, because they do think there's a window here, and they have been hired by the family, as you heard them articulate to the court. What's your take on the potential success? We heard the very passionate arguments in front of Judge Sabella. Now it's going to be a 3-judge panel who will now look at this record. And Sabella even said, hey, if they come back and say I shouldn't have let that the costume in, the shirt, the police shirt in, then I accept it. In a lot of cases, there's no way they're going to be successful. There's something here, though, is there not, that Keetley might be able to hold on to?
Well, I would say, Ted, in looking at the fact that this case has already been tried and there was a mistrial, then that goes to show that there could be something where this jury may not have gotten it right. I will say that based off of what we've seen and based off of the arguments that we heard today, it was more of a mistrial type of argument, in my opinion, than a motion for a new trial, as they were saying the missteps that occurred actually during the litigation, as opposed to re-examining or looking at new matters for the litigation. But I do believe that the appeal process is necessary if it seems as if the state did make a few blunders. So I don't know that gets him off, but I do think that, again, for justice to be truthfully served, then all avenues should be explored for the defendant.
You think the jury got it right, though, in this case?
100%, I think the jury got it right. You have the evidence from the casings. You have the eyewitness who said 2,000% it was you who shot me. You have the individual who worked with the law enforcement to insist that this gentleman was a part of the common scheme. So I don't think that there's anything that shows that he didn't do it. But I do believe that based off of the blunders of the prosecution, that even the judge acknowledged that there could be a chance for some form of a good appellate work.
Yeah, he also had him painting his van in the wee hours of the mornings with his buddy over there. That was very compelling testimony. The couple both saying that, yeah, Michael wanted his van painted at midnight. So yeah, lot of circumstantial evidence, and as the prosecutor pointed out, some direct evidence as well. Bottom line is this family, these families now, after such a long road, 2010 was the incident, and here we are in 2023. They finally have some justice. Cannon Kearney, always great to see you, man. It's been a while.
Yes, sir.
You're always on with Julie in the mornings. I don't know, why don't you come on with my show a little later in the day, as I'm filling in for Julie today, and we don't want to say too many bad things about Julie because she's here. Cannon, thanks. Have a great 3-day weekend, good holiday weekend.